Alright guys, so this is where we left off last time. If you're reopening your file and you don't see the side the same, just remember you come over here to rendered view and it should pop up. Alright, once you have the lighting down, we will move on to parenting all of these, or joining all of these objects, because right now they're all separate, excuse me. So if I were to grab this can and then hit G to move, the lid objects won't go with it. So to do that, you have to select the following objects in this order. So I'm going to click on the little dot first, hold shift, click on the tab, then the lid circle, and at the end, the full can object. Okay, once you have those selected, you're going to hit Control J or Command J, and it should join all of the objects together now. Oops, let me redo that. There we go. Okay, so now when you just hit the can object, everything else will move together. And this will just ensure that animation process gets done smoothly. All right, with that being said, the next thing we want to do is add an empty. This is super helpful for moving the can easily, or any object really, and most animations will have an empty that it's parented to. So to do that, you're going to have the can unselected. Shift A to add an object, hover over an empty here, and the empty is completely up to you. You can do a circle and put it at the bottom. I'm going to do a cube for this one, and we're just going to move it up and align it to the can. So this is GY. Oh, give me 1 second. All right, my bad, y'all. Now you'll be able to see the keys that I'm clicking on. So I'm just going to scale this on the x-axis, move this a little on the x again, GX, scale this up on the Z. And I'm going to pause here because this might take some time, but you're basically doing S and then all of the axes, so it's being centered correctly. So don't forget to use your side views, write your number pad, and just align this and resize this accordingly. All right, so once you're all done, you should end up with something like this. And now we're going to parent the can to this empty object. So whenever we move the empty, the can's going to move with it. So you're going to select on the can object first, hold the shift key, select the empty, and the keyboard shortcut is Control P or Command P. And you're going to select Set Parent to Object. All right. So now that that's done, I'm going to go to front view again, or something like this. And everything's looking good. Okay, so if the circle, the origin point, it's this little yellow dot. If it's not in the center of your bottle, or of your can, I'm sorry, you can select the can, right click, and then set origin. And then it should be origin to geometry, and it should help center that if it's not. Okay, so now that this is parented, I'm going to test it by hitting G. Awesome. So we can now start to animate stuff. All right, so I'm going to expand the timeline down here a little bit, like so. What I want the animation that's going to happen, it's like 2 cans are going to pop out from the sides, so we need to make 2 copies of this. So with both of these objects selected, I'm going to hit Shift D to make a copy, and then if you right click, it drops it back in place. And we want to make one more, so Shift D, right click to drop back in place, and now you'll see that you have 3 different copies of it. So I'm going to double click on the first one and just call it can 01, just so I don't get confused while we're animating. All right. Okay, so the standard frame rate for this animation is 24 frames per second, and that's just the easiest to work with. So the first part of the animation, I want it to be about 3 seconds, so it's kind of snappy. The cool thing about this is that if you can't do math fast, you can do 24, because that's our frame rate, times, let's say 3 seconds, right? And then I hit enter. It'll tell you that that's going to be 72 frames. Here it gives you your start and your end frame. So you can either increase this or decrease this. Since I'm doing 72 frames for the first part, I can just change that to 72. And you'll see that it shrinks it. Again, you can always come back in here, which we probably will, to expand or decrease the timeline duration. All right, next up, let's grab this playhead here, move it over to, I'm going to say frame 1 right here. I want you to select the camera here. And I'm going to go over to this icon right here. And I can see that this has somewhat of a rotation, so we need to fix that. All right, and oops, camera selected. So we want to change this rotation to be 90. And we want to move this down, so I'm going to hit GZ to about there. I might have to zoom in a bit, but I'm going to hit the Y rotation and the Z rotation to be 0 as well. And again, this is preference. Yours can start off this far off, but I definitely feel like I have to move mine to be closer. Okay. All right, after that, what I want you to do is hit this little icon right here, which is the auto keying. What this does is basically it's going to set our keyframes for us automatically, so we don't have to go in there and do I set location rotation scale. So go ahead and turn that on. And I want the animation to start with the logo here, so I'm just going to hit G and Y and move this closer. And you'll notice that now there's like a little yellow diamond in your timeline. That's the icon for a keyframe. And I'm just slightly moving this down. All right. Right. If it's blurry for any reason, mine this time didn't come out blurry, but you can click on the little camera icon, just make sure the camera is selected, and you can toggle this off or on. So it might be toggled on, you would just toggle it off. I actually noticed that I never changed this. Again, this is optional because we all have a different design of our can, but I do want the beginning. An easy way you can do it is to start off zoomed in and then we're going to zoom out, but I want to set this to 125, and now I can move my camera slightly back like so. All right, so once you've done the zoom in, we're going to go ahead and move this playhead over to frame 72. And this is why auto keying is kind of cool, because now all we have to do with the camera selected is hit GY, move the camera back to reveal the whole can. All right. And now it creates the animation for you. So if you take the playhead back and hit play, you'll see it's got a zoom out. Now we are going to refine the the camera settings in a bit, but I believe this is a good spot to hit a file, save as, rename this to wherever you're at, and I'm just going to call this animation 1. All right, so to make it a little bit more dynamic, I'm going to be on frame 72 still, and I'm going to come to Y rotation. So it's this little icon right here. It's an orange square called Object Properties, and I want to type 360. Okay, cool. So now when I bring this back, hit play, we have this cool rotation happening. But I can tell right away that there's some cropping happening. Let's see it. Right there where I can see the viewport. So it might just be something where we have to change the size of our backdrop here. Okay, so to do that, we're just going to click on the backdrop here. I'm going to go into edit mode, select this edge here. I'm just going to hit G and then Y and just kind of extend this further out. Okay, so let's play that back. So you'll notice too, if you don't have anything selected, your keyframes are gone from the timeline, but the animation is still happening. To bring them back, you just have to select whatever object you animated. So cool, now I don't have any of that clipping going on. All right, let's go ahead and start keying the rest of the cans now, or the can. So I'm going to select can 1 here. I'm going to select the empty, actually only, and then I'm going to hit G and then right click. Oops. Oh, it's selected can. There we go. I'm going to hide these for now because it's not letting me select it. Okay. G. There we go. So it's G and then left click and it'll create that first keyframe there. And then I'm just going to move this over to frame 72 and I'm going to hit G, Y, and slightly move the first can forward to maybe about right there. Okay, so we have that second keyframe. Right, so that part is done. We're going to go ahead and select this next can. Hold up. Okay, that's can 1. Okay, I'm assuming this is can 2. So select this empty here. And for this one, I'm going to come kind of to a top view. Make sure that I'm in frame 1 over here. And this is still can 2 that I'm in. I'm going to hit G and then left click to make its first keyframe. Going to move over to frame 72. And now I'm going to move this can over to the side. So I'm going to hit GX. To about right there. The spacing could be different. Again, this is all preference for you all. Cool. And so there's that animation happening. Okay, and we're basically going to do the same thing for can 3. So I'm going to move this back over here. Let me turn these off really quick. Select the empty for can 3. Now I can turn these back on. Move this to frame 1. Can 3 is selected, the empty selected. You hit G to move and then left click to drop in place to make that first keyframe. Move over to frame 72. And we're going to do the same thing we did to can 2. So G and then X. Move this over to this side. I want to say that looks symmetrical. Sure. And then left click. So we should have something like this. So it looks pretty great. It's still pretty flat. We're going to work with some graph editing options, but for now, this is another good place to hit save. And so the video doesn't go longer, I'm going to stop this one and we'll continue on in the next video.